who did that? Bhaktisiddhanta sent sannyasis and brahmacharis to preach in England. And Prabhupada sent 3 grihasta couples. And you know the story. They met George Harrison. One thing led to another. A record became a top record. George Harrison donated Bhaktivedanta Manor. So many things happened, right? And Prabhupada used to say, my Guru Maharaj sent sannyasis to England. They could hardly do anything. And my grihasta couples, they have done everything. So I don't know if you know this, but in the beginning of the movement, most of the leaders were married. Most of the leaders were married. It was done by married couples. You probably don't know much of the history of ISKCON, but in the beginning, practically all the temple presidents and all the GBC leaders were all married. We didn't have sannyasis. We only had a few. We only had a few, like maybe 5. And the majority of young men who took sannyas could not maintain their sannyas vows. They married. So Prabhupada said being married is a safe ashram because of the sexual attraction and the other needs we have for family and security and so forth. He said that being married is a safe position. And he never really discriminated between his sannyasis, brahmacharis, and grihastas. Whoever was willing to do service and whoever did it, we just encouraged them. He never saw a grihasta and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to find out that you're married." He never said that. Sometimes brahmacharis do that, you know. You're in the brahmachari ashram, then you get married, and it's like, for them, it's like a tragedy. You know? A tragic horror movie. Oh, you got married. You know, the fanatical brahmachari. But Prabhupada was never like that. So now, when I joined ISKCON, I would estimate, I'll give a conservative estimate. I would estimate that actually there was practically no such thing as a congregation. I'm changing my estimate. I was going to say 80% lived in the temple. But now that I think of it, even those who didn't live in the temple were temple devotees because they were serving all day and they were maintained by the temple. And congregational members were like, it was like 1%. It was like almost non-existent, very small number. And we would never give a lecture about practicing Krishna consciousness at home because even the people who were at home were full-time devotees. They were at the temple 12 hours a day doing service and doing all their sadhana. And so now in ISKCON, it's completely opposite. Most people do not live in temples, they live at home. So in 1970, no one would even give this lecture because there was nobody living, basically in our movement, very few were living and working in the world. Everyone was in the temple. So obviously things are different. And now because things are different, we need to understand, we want to try to understand how we can practice Krishna consciousness, practice spiritual life, while living. And the principal, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was married, I think he had 9 children or 12 or something like that. He was the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who was Prabhupada's spiritual master. And he wrote a song, Manasa Deha Geha, and Bengali, but you could understand Manasa Deha Geha home, or in Bengali, body. How do you say in Hindi, home? What do you call it? Griha, I'm not. In Bengali, we call it body, but deha, manasa, deha, geha.
Deha.
Deha, yeah. My mind, body, family. So in this song, he was saying, I give you my mind, I give you my body, I give you my family, I give you my home. So that's what it means to be Krishna conscious. You see everything belongs to Krishna. So if I say, like here, I'm sitting in my office, this is my office. But it's not really my office, it's Krishna's office. I am sitting in Krishna's office, and why is it Krishna's office? Because I only use it for Krishna's service. So I'm sitting in Krishna's office. So I don't identify it as mine. So spiritual grihastha life means this home is not mine. Now, I want to tell you something. It's so interesting. This is Bhaktisiddhanta said. He said, in order to be a proper husband or proper wife, you have to see your spouse as a servant of Krishna, not as your servant. Because, men like to see their wives as their servant. Like, give me this, give me that, cook this, do that, buy this, go here. It's like, okay, the wife's a servant, and in the Vedas, the wife should be chaste and serve her husband. But Bhaktisiddhanta, he had another idea which was transcendental to that. He said, no husband should see his wife as servant. He should see himself as servant. No woman should see her husband as servant, but she should see herself as servant. No man should disrespect his wife. He should respect her. He should always respect her. A respecter means so many things that sometimes in our society are not followed. And sometimes even in ISKCON, not followed well at all. I'm the husband, you should respect me. Bhaktisiddhanta said, no, you're the husband, you should respect your wife. You should not expect her to respect you. And to the wife, you should respect your husband. Don't expect him to respect you, you should respect him. You should respect your husband, you should respect your wife. You should not see your husband or wife as your property. You should see your husband or wife as Krishna's property and serve them. So then he said something true, sad but true, but also funny. And he said, I've never found any man or woman who thinks like that, who I can get to think that way, that just see my wife as I'm the servant of my wife, or I'm just the servant of my husband. I just respect my wife. I'm not the controller, I'm not the enjoyer, I'm just the servant. He said, I never found any man or woman who wants to get married that embodies perfectly that mentality. And then he said, therefore, I've never recommended anyone to get married because I haven't found anybody qualified with that mentality. So you could say it's kind of a joke, but he was also being quite serious in the fact that this is a rare mentality. So practicing Krishna consciousness at home means everyone in your family belongs to Krishna. Your house belongs to Krishna. Everything is Krishna's. That's how you see it, and that's how you deal with it. Now, you probably know that in traditional Indian society, up till maybe 100 years ago, up till the time the British completely destroyed the Gurukul system, the British were trying to destroy India, and that was they were smart enough to figure out what were the foundations of the strength of Indian society. And one of them was Gurukul. So they destroyed the Gurukul. They just shut the whole Gurukul system down. But you may or may not know that when a boy goes to Gurukul, he goes at the age of 5, and he stays there till 25. And at 25, he decides if he wants to marry or he wants to continue single. So that was a tradition, at least in the Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya families, maybe not Shudra. So what does that mean? It means your boy at the age of 5 is going to leave home and live in the ashram of his guru for 20 years. So that means you're only going to be with your boy for 5 years, and you're hardly going to see him for the next 20. That's pretty detached, isn't it? That means you're raising that child. Why? Because he's Krishna's. I'm raising him to be a devotee of Krishna. And I'm so detached, I will let him go to the ashram of the guru because that's the best thing for him. And one of the reasons the boys went to the ashram of the guru is because the parents, it's very difficult for parents to discipline their children, and it's very easy for the guru to do it. So when he goes to the ashram of the guru, he's disciplined very easily. But when he stays at home, it's hard. So the boys would go. But the point is, you're raising a child, you know. You want your child to grow up and be the next CEO of Google and make all kinds of money and give you money in your retirement and become, you know, a first-class successful person. Everybody wants to see their son successful, send him to the best schools, get the best grades. But in Vedic culture, your son is 5. That's it. He's gone. He's with the guru. The total detachment. And in Vedic culture, girls would get married around between the age of 11 and 13. Well, they could get married earlier, but they wouldn't leave home, I think, not before 11, even if we say 13. So according to the Vedic culture, you're going to spend 5 years with your son, and you're going to spend 11 to 13 years with your daughter, and that's it. So it's a very detached way of having a family. I'm raising my children to become devotees. I'm raising my son to be trained by a guru. I'm raising my daughter to be trained by a boy who is coming from Gurukul and to serve him. And so that's an incredible amount of detachment, isn't it? How many of you have kids? Raise your hand if you have kids. All right. So did I just scare you with that? Mataji, could you imagine your son, 5 years? He's gone to the Gurukul. And in those days, who knows, I don't know where the Gurukul was. It was probably, you know, a few days trip to see the son. And then the girl, 11, 12, she's gone. And that's it. You know, very detached, right? So that's the idea of Grihastha life. It's not my house. It's not my wife. It's not my money. It's not even my kids. It's Krishna's, right? So, you know, whenever they talk about money, people would say to Prabhupada, "Oh, you have money." And Prabhupada said, "Give us all. You can give us all the money in the world we can spend for Krishna." So money is no problem. The problem is, I think, is my money, and I'm going to spend it for my 15-foot big screen TV and my $10,000 sound system and my, you know, $200,000 Bentley and on for things I don't really need. And I could have invested that money in service to Krishna. So it's everything. That's Grihastha life. Everything belongs to Krishna. What do you think? Is that inspiring you or depressing you? You're not sure, right? You're not sure if you're inspired or depressed. Or you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do that. So let me explain a philosophical principle. The idea of spiritual, generally we think, okay, spiritual would mean I'm a soul, so I'm spiritual. And there's a transcendental world, a spiritual world, where Krishna lives, that's spiritual. And everything else is material. That's not the proper definition. Spiritual just means that I see it in connection with Krishna, and material means I see it disconnected from Krishna. You could even see Krishna and disconnect. Think, how can I enjoy Krishna? How can I use Krishna for me? So even though you're looking at Krishna, it becomes material. And even though you're looking at material things and you think, how can I use them for Krishna? That's spiritual. So it's a state of consciousness. It's the way you see it. So if we see things in our home as belonging to Krishna for his service, then that's spiritual. That's being spiritual at home. And if we think this is mine to enjoy, then that's material. And we will come back again and again and again to take more births in this world. Things are pretty bad lately, don't you think, in the world? It's like, it seemed like the last few months, like one thing was crashing, first the coronavirus, then the economy, then the riots, and like, what's next, right? Here in America, so many places coronavirus is rising because they didn't take proper precaution. And they open it up a little bit, and then they have to close it down again because it's getting worse. So, one time they were talking with Prabhupada about celibacy, and the devotee said, you know, if everyone's celibate, there'll be no people. You know, there'll be no people on the earth. And Prabhupada said, "But that's not a problem. You don't need people here because this world is just a prison. And so if there's no people here, it's like the prison is closed, nobody. Oh, big problem. Headlines in the newspaper, prison closed. There's no more criminals. That's not a problem. That's good. And then he said, why do you want to bring people into this world? It's such a horrible place. So we're getting to see a little bit about how horrible it is. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of people, maybe not amongst Indians, maybe, I don't know, but amongst Westerners who are not having children because they look at the world and they think, I don't want to bring anyone into a world like this. Did you know that? There's a lot of people. It's not like they don't want kids, but they look at the world and say, oh, this world is bad. I don't want to bring kids in here. So Prabhupada would say, if you're going to have children, it's to make them Krishna conscious. Otherwise, if you have children and it's not to make them Krishna conscious, then it's like animals. Animals are having children also. Right? Does that make sense? Yes, no? Yeah. So it's a very detached way. We're always thinking, what will Krishna want? How will Krishna be pleased? How we can see everything as his. So that's like just kind of a brief something. And I think we were supposed to stop, at like 12:15 or 12, well, not 12. What time is it for you? 6? It's 6:10 for you? 6:09? Is that correct?
10:07.
So we have like 5-10 minutes for questions, something like that?
Yes. Correct.
You can also put your questions in the chat. If you're looking.
Grace Mahatma Prabhu.
Yes.
Are you able to hear?
It's hard to hear you. I have to get closer to the.
I'll come close.
Yeah, that's better.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, you're mentioning about the previous 100 years ago, how Grahasthas would live versus how we live now, with so much of added work pressure and additional anxiety and not much free time.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a burden. Forget 64, even 16 is a big burden at times.
Yes.
It's also that sometimes it feels like real burden. I don't even have words to explain how I feel sometimes, because
I'll demonstrate how you feel. It feels like that. It's hard to pick up my beat. They're so heavy. No, I can't do it. Straining my arm. Something like that?
yeah, yes, but maybe in a different zone. That just I have taken a verb to chant, so I have to chant. It becomes it doesn't become like a relishing experience, while spirituality is supposed to be relishing, and um, uh, we just live a life wherein at times it is really not nourishing the soul. It's actually creating other opposite effect. Would you like to give any practical things which we can follow so that it's not like that? Hare Krishna.
No. If I gave you $1 million, would you think that's a burden? Well, €1 million. If I gave you €1 million, would you think, wow, what a burden I have? €1 million. It's such a problem to deal with it, where to invest it, where to bank it. Like, what do I do with it? Should I donate it? Should I keep it? How much? Would you think like that? Just take your $1 million. It's like, I don't think so. Would you? Anyway, raise your hand if I offered you $1 million and you just say, this is a burden, I'll give it back. Gorkishore Das Babaji, he said that. Someone gave him like 1 rupee and he gave it back and he goes, this is such a burden. But most people, okay, we have one person. I don't think he understood the question. Maybe he's single. Maybe he already has $1 million, so he doesn't need 2 million. So he's already got too much money. He doesn't know what to do with. Yeah. So if there's something we appreciate, it's never a burden, right? And you know, sometimes like a student is, this studies are so burdensome, I don't like it. And you say, no, but if you don't graduate, your life's going to be really hard. You're just going to get a job like collecting trash or, you know, painting houses or, you know, working on the road in the winter. Your life's going to be difficult. Just go to school, you get a good job, your life will be easier. So then when he understands, all of a sudden, school's no longer a burden because he understands the benefit, right? Okay, I'll do the austerity of going to school because I know in the long run, it's going to make my life better, it's going to make it easier. And if I drop out of school, what am I going to do? I'm just going to get a job, you know, as a cashier, work long hours, make little money, barely can afford an apartment. So it's the same thing with chanting. When you understand what it is, what the benefit is, where it takes you, it no longer becomes a burden, but you appreciate it. Like, this is really special because this is connecting me with Krishna. This is going to give me love of Krishna. And how much you think you should pay for love of Krishna? What would be like a good price, good discount price? What do you think? Get love of Krishna. If you went into a store and it was like and there was a product called Love of Krishna, and there was a price tag on the product. You're like, what would you think would be a good price for it? 64 rounds, 64 principles. Yeah, that'd still be a good price, right? But now in Kali Yuga, by the mercy of Prabhupada, it's super discounted to only 4 principles and 16 rounds. So if you see it that way, then you realize, actually, I'm getting so much for such a little investment. Otherwise, if we're not conscious of what we're getting, then we'll think, this is so difficult. Just like the student who wants to drop out because he doesn't understand what he's going to get by staying in school. And when he understands, then all of a sudden it's not a burden. So that's one answer. There could be many answers. But that's one to meditate on. So what it means is, for all of you to appreciate, what are you going to get by Krishna consciousness? You're going to get, would you like to see Krishna? Would you like to talk to Krishna? How about take lunch with Krishna? How about if we're doing a little auction here, okay? We're doing an auction, we have a seat that you can have at Krishna's lunch with the Cowherd Boys on August 2nd. And we're taking bids. How much would you bid for that? Neelambar would he'd empty his piggy bank, empty his bank account, sell his car, sell his house. To get that, he'll definitely be the highest bidder, no matter what. Right, Neelambar?
Probably, yes.
And his wife will probably be saying, yeah, also, give it all away. We can see Krishna. So that's the idea. When you understand the value of what you're getting, then you understand that this price of 16 and 4 is a real discount because it should be 64 and 64. So that's one way of looking at it. Say, no, this is a bargain. If you don't know the price of something, sometimes you'll go to a store and you'll look at a product and you're expecting the product's going to be like 20 euros and then you see it's like 99 or 100 or the high-end ones are 150 and like you can't understand. And someone has to explain to you why this thing is so expensive. This was, like 30 years of research and this and that and precision instruments to make it, and it was, extremely expensive to manufacture. You say, but it's just a little chip. Yeah, but this little chip, can do 100 million things. And then you say, oh, okay, all right, so $100, 100 euros is cheap. Okay, I understand. But something like that. You're getting Krishna. You're getting to see Krishna. You're getting to dance with Krishna. You're getting eternal life. You're getting out of the material world for only 16 rounds of 4 principles. Then you'll say, wow, that's a deal. That's a real deal, you know. Inside yoga, it was 100,000 years of austere meditation, you know. So all you have to, you can go to work, just chant your 16 rounds, follow 4 principles. You can go to work, have a nice house, have a nice wife, nice kids, nice husband, nice car, nice this, nice that. 16 rounds, 4 principles, and you get Krishna. That's a deal, isn't it? You don't have to be celibate. You don't have to live on top of a mountain. You don't have to chant 8 hours a day. You don't even have to be initiated. You could still go back to Krishna. It's like a deal. So that's one answer I would give.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Should we send out a Facebook message? Going Back to Godhead is on sale this week at 99% off. It's being sold for 16 rounds of 4 principles. Reduced from the normal price of 64 and 64. Now, Prabhupada has cut the discount, and devotees would say, Srila Prabhupada, can you make it easier? And Prabhupada said, we've made it as easy as possible. We can't make it less. We can't make it any cheaper. Yesterday I was giving class and I was telling the devotees, if you walked into a Mercedes-Benz store, I imagine the cheapest Mercedes, like the little compacts, are like 35, 40,000 euros, right? And then it goes up. And if you get up in the sports cars, probably up to like 150, isn't it? More or less. Something like that. So let's say you want, the high-end sports car. My son actually has his own German car repair shop. He told me it costs $6,000 to repair the transmission on that car. Just for the transmission. So, he said, those cars are amazing, but they're expensive to repair. So let's say you walked in, 150,000 for that high-end, and you say, could I get it for 10,000? And they look at you like, what planet have you landed from? What are you talking about? This is 150,000. Yeah. So it's the same thing. Do I have to chant? Do I have to do this? Isn't there another way? It's like you're asking to get the high-end Mercedes sports car for 10,000 euros. It's just insane. And that's how Prabhupada would explain. So they're going to sell that $150,000 sports car. They've reduced it to like 110,000, 40,000 off, and you want to get it for 10,000. And they're looking at you like, you are completely crazy, isn't it? And so we're the same way. Can't you make it any easier? Why is it so hard? And Prabhupada's looking at you and going, you are crazy. You have no idea. You have no idea how good this car is. You have no idea what you're getting in Krishna consciousness. That's the idea. Does that make sense? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you have no idea what's in this bag. What the mantra that you chant with these beads, you have no idea what it can do. It can do amazing things in your life. So if you have a nice house, you make a nice altar, you have a nice room where you can chant, then it's perfect utilization of your home. You make it nice so you can be Krishna conscious. Yes? What do you think? Good idea?
Good idea.
Great.
Otherwise, the option is you can take birth again. So most of you a lot of you look like you're like late 20s, 30s. So if you take birth again, we're probably talking 40, 50 years from now. What do you think the world's going to be like 40, 50 years from now? It's going to be, who knows? We don't want to think. It may not be so good. So you might say, well, my life's okay, it's nice. Yeah. What's going to be going on 50 years from now? How much pollution is there going to be? What kind of politics are going to be going on? What kind of diseases are there? What kind of, robots, you don't even be able to find a job. The robots will be doing everything. Like, who knows, right? So that was Prabhupada's message. Go back to Godhead this life, you can do it. We're giving you a process. No need to be here any longer. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Nice to see all of you.
You too.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Where are you? I didn't see your lotus face.
I'm not alone.
Moon face. It's either a lotus or a moon, or a combination of both. How many more people are there that I can't see?
20.
Okay, Pramila,
Hi very much.
Rashmi, Srinidhi Jai, Arjun, Santosh Prabhu.
Oh, yeah. You need to get a wide-angle lens on your... I didn't see everybody. Anyway, nice to see you all. Nice to be able to fly in on Zoom. My daughter was joking with me this morning because in your language you don't have Z, right? You pronounce Z like CH, right? Isn't it? Do you? At least in Hindi? Like we say bazaar and you say bajar. So she was, so you don't, Joom. You don't say Zoom, you say Joom. My daughter said, "Oh, you're giving class today on Zoom?" I said, "What?" What do you got on Zoom? I say, "Oh, now I got it." Yeah.
It's typically from the part of India that is MP. If you go to Bihar, they typically say in June.
They say Zoom. Wow. But in other parts of India, no, Joom. Bajar. We're going to the bajar. Yes. Okay. So we'll see you again sometime soon, somewhere. Back. We'll Zoom.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. Oh, I need you guys, you IT guys, there are probably a lot of IT guys. I need you to develop an app where you can put a sweet ball up to the camera and then I can get it on my end. Programs, I can get some of the nice prasadam you cook. Plus, if you develop that app, you'll become very wealthy. So, some of you guys are smart. Figure out how you can, somehow or other get this. The yogis could do it, right? They could just grab, like Prabhupada said, to grab a fruit in Afghanistan, like these mystic yogis, grab somebody's Rolex watch. He manifests a watch, but he's stealing from a guy like 10,000 miles away, so no problem. Yeah. So you develop that app, and you just touch it to some kind of device, and then it goes. The sweet spot goes digital, and then it analog again converts, and there it is. We do it with audio. They do it with video, so you can do analog to digital, digital to analog prasadam conversion. You figure that out. All right. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita. I will see you next time.
Haribol.